Hey, welcome back to another video. Alright, today we're going to be having a look at some of the new weapons that came out in First Contact in 3.7. So we're looking at our carrier design here, and what we've got, which we did test out a bit in the last game, is the ancient driller drones, which seem to be quite effective. You can see there they've got good damage, 4 to 16, good attack speed. All the other stats seem pretty standard. I think their hull points are a bit less than a advanced strike craft. Where's carrier? I think here it is. This is a bit of design here. All right, let's have a look. So you got the advanced. It's got 12 hull points here. It's got 10 shields, 25. Same evasion, 80. Speed, 700. Average damage is 40. Average damage is 34.74, so you'd think the advanced strike craft are better. So this one does 100% armor penetration, 25% hull damage. And as more people are running armor these days, it makes more sense to probably opt with this. Plus, you can get this one quite early. In games I've been playing, if you get the tech for the building, what's it called? Technology... Research Society. Let's see if we can find it. Have a quick look. I'll probably scroll past it probably. So many society texts now. Probably one of these ones down the bottom, isn't it? Okay, Ancient Fire, Ancient Shield, Driller Jones, Pulsed Armor. Alright, so if you can get the Archaeotech Studies early, which I did, and you probably want to try and get yourself a scientist with the Archaeo Studies trait, which will help you roll these. Then you can build the faculty of Archaeo Studies on one of your planets, which is really good to do. Need some relics for it, so do your archaeological dig sites, get some relics going. And if you start on a relic world, you get bonus to Archaeo Studies plus 50%, so you get the tech even faster. And you'd also start with this on your, if you start with Remnant's Origin, you start with this building instead of a science lab on your home world. So you already start with this, and plus this technology, so you can give you a real leg up if you're trying to go down this path early. So we've got all these technologies which we've unlocked here. So we're mostly focused on the driller drones at the moment. We're also going to be looking at the ancient suspension field, but the 15% shield hardening, I'm told, and I've looked on the forum as well, it says it's bugged, which is confirmed. So we're not getting the shield hardening at the moment, but it is still very useful, and I'll explain why in a minute. Plus, you've got the ancient pulsed armor, which gives armor hit points and shield hit points and regen as well. All of these things do cost a what do you call them? Yeah, minor artifacts. I was going to say relic, but they're minor artifacts. All right, so let's have a look at the actual ship design. So we're going to be using this ship as our carrier. So I've put in 3 medium suspension fields, put in 3 neutronium armor. This is the late game build. I'm also going to do a mid game build. I'll show that off a little bit later. We're running with 2 ancient pulsed armors. And this is about the most I could afford because of the power requirements. I didn't want to go into dark matter and stuff. I just wanted to keep it standard tech. I've got some ancient shield hardeners there. No, advanced shield hardeners, I should say, not ancient. And I'll put regenerative hull tissue on because if you look at the daily armor regen, plus 10%. So that's 300 armor regen on our 3000 armor we've got. 5% daily hull regen. So a hull is 1800, so that's going to be what, about 90 hull regen. So that armor regen per day 300 is pretty good. Running carrier computer, everything else pretty standard. Now our weapons are our ancient driller drones. It's going to be one of our main offensive weapons. It's going to go up to 100% armor penetration plus 25% hull damage. Now it does do minus 50% shield damage. So if you're coming up against someone that's got a lot of shields, you probably want to change this and put on a kinetic weapon. You might want to change that to a gauze cannon, or we could switch to something like this, the kinetic architect as well, because that is reasonably good, although the kinetic does more damage. But was it 45 to 100? And this is 0 to 100, so this has no minimum range, which is really good. All right, so just keep in mind this shield hardening is not working, so we're missing a 45% shield hardening there. So we're going to be using this fleet, which is over here. Now look at the fleet power, firepower, 21.1k. We've got 29.3k over here, which is our standard missile meta, which has been very dominant over recent months through computer. Okay, nothing fancy there, just standard. Now I haven't put in leaders or anything in there. There's no edicts, all right. So all that you can bump things up and really min-max it if you want to. But let's have a look at this. Right, let's go into our ascension perks. Let's slot in Archaeo Engineers. Plus 33% weapons damage. And it also unlocks additional effects for ancient ship components and buildings. So this is quite nice. Let's select it and see what happens. Boom, our fleet went up a couple K. So now that would be our 33% buff to firepower. Let's just run a day. Now you can see it's got the 26k, and that's because it takes a day for the benefits to the shields and powered armor to take effect, which you will see here. Here it is. Our shields have gone up quite a lot. 950 shield hit points. That's the bonus we get for taking the ascension perk for Archaeo Engineers. So it not only buffs your weapons, it buffs your shields and armor. Okay, so you can see here as to why. It doesn't appear in the stats by the look of it, but it appears here. Plus 950, Neutronium armor 21, Ancient armor 850. It doesn't appear to be having effect on the armor at the moment. But our fleet did go up about 3k. So that's because it boosted the shields right up. So now our firepower is starting to get similar to the missile meta. And that's all we've done. So just check the damage. Hasn't gone up at all. So this must be the effects applied here. No, so it just must be a fleet effect. Okay, let's see how this battle pans out. Let's get rid of all this rubbish. See how we engage. Now we're engaging. Strike craft launching. Our ancient driller drones are launching. They're quite quick, aren't they? There go their missiles. Ships are retreating. Relatively even. They've lost a cruiser. We've lost a cruiser. Lost 2 each. They've lost 2 more. They're down to 16. 15. Oh, their firepower is dropping quick. Let's just look at the battle damage here. They've just dropped real quick. Ancient driller drones are really getting through to the hull. And those missiles, the ancient nano missile clouds, you didn't really talk much about them either, but they're getting through to the hull as well. Whereas the whirlwind and marauder missiles are not. So it must be the shield hardening must be having an effect there. Yeah, see, they're getting hit by, the shields are absorbing a fair bit of the damage. Whirlwind missiles, yeah, doing damage to armor there. So that's the ancient nano missiles. I picked them because they got good range. They've got fast fire. They don't do a lot of damage. What they do is 100% shield penetration, 100% armor penetration, 25% damage to the hull. So they're going straight through, hitting the hull, and they're doing extra damage to the hull, which really complements these guys quite nicely. So once the shields are gone, they're going through the armor and straight to the hull as well. So you've got double weapons going straight through the hull and doing 25% damage. Well, they're getting absolutely hammered. 7 ships down, 8. All over Red Rover. 11, 10. Yeah, that's retreated fleet. So it looks like they lost 10 ships to our 2. We have just annihilated the missile meta with this ship design. This wasn't a victory. This was a slaughter. We have barely been scratched. Look, our shields, armor, hull, very high. We've only lost 2 ships. That's just crazy. That is very powerful. And that is this is a later game fleet, but that was just nuts. Considering how dominant the missile meta has been since halfway through, I guess 3.6 when it came out, when I think Lifeus was one of the first ones to play it in the tournaments and surprise everyone. So you can see how this design just wrecks the missile metas. Now this is a later game, so later game tech. So let's have a look how a mid-game tech would do when the missile meta is sort of in its prime, and you would be getting all of these Archaeo Studies techs. I started getting them from about year 40, I think. So by about year 50, year 60, I had pretty much all of them. It was great, and I wasn't even trying to get it early. I didn't even start with remnants or anything. I just researched the technology when it came up. I don't even think I had a scientist there specialising in it. That's just my first game and just playing around with it. So you can really aim for it or try and beeline for it. I can really see a lot of people in PvP really beelining for this and trying to get a nice advantage depending what weapons you roll up. All right, we'll have a look at the next part. So for this fight, we've got our same similar design. I've dropped all the techs down to represent more a mid-game tech. Just put UV lasers in there. Kept these same weapons because we need these, because these are our special techs we're testing out. Kept these. I've dropped the armor down to level 3. I've dropped the shield hardeners down to the first level, so 15% each. I've kept the regenerative hull tissue because that's quite an early tech you can get quite easily. You seem to get this every game if you wanted it. I've kept these techs, so see how this pans out. This is more a mid game. Now you've got your missile fleet here. Level 1 swarmer missiles, quantum missiles, level 3 armor shields, tier 1 afterburners, artillery, and all sort of standard stuff there for the mid-term. So we'll see if our missile ships can close range, keep at range, run around these carriers, because these carriers won't be as fast because they've got no afterburners or anything, or whether the strike craft will simply outrange them and do too much damage early and pick them off, because carrier is one of the few things that outranges the missiles. Now we already have, the reason the difference in the firepower is because we already have our Archaeo engineers picked, so that's boosted up our fleet probably about 6k, because that's what it was before, or maybe 5k. So it'd be very similar fleet levels, if firepower levels, if not for this Archaeo engineers trait. And this is where the advantage comes in. So this is where you need to start planning what your ascension perks are going to be. And particularly if you get some of these techs early, you can use them against AI early at year 30, 40, trying to conquer your first nearby enemy. Because look, the firepower difference, there's no way this fleet would be nearly 22k, and that's not even with edicts. Let's look, let's chuck speed, let's just have a little look. I don't think we have any focusing crystal, and we have some energy weapons. Armor, we have some armor. Explosives, we have a little bit. Ammunition, no. So gases for shields, 25.8. What does that go up to? 18.8. Okay. So yeah, so we went up about 4k. They went up about 3.5. So we'll leave the edicts off. All right, let's see how this fight goes.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
Strike craft away, missiles away, lasers are firing. Lost a ship. Got some are retreating. Lost they're losing a bunch of ships. 4. Oh, they're just dropping like flies. Oh my lord. Have a look at this. Oh, those ancient driller drones are just smashing, and look at that damage so early. Yeah. You can just see, like, look at our shields and armor are holding really good. Their shields are down to half. Armor's right, we can see the hull's dropping. 12 ships left. 10, 9, 8, 5. Oh, wow. Oh, that was a... Look, we did not lose a ship. Our ships are barely had any. We lost a fleck of paint. You know, it's like, how many ships have we actually killed? 5. So we, I thought we had 21, did we? I don't think I built 20. I don't know. That's been a bit buggy. I'm pretty sure it was just 2020. Yeah, we had 20. So they lost, well, at least 15 ships. 15 ships destroyed with mid-game. So you can see in the mid-game, the advantage is even bigger because these techs are just so damn good. So if you can focus on them and get them by that year, you know, that year 40, 50, at least get some of them. How good would it be? You may not have all of them. Maybe you don't have some of the powered armor and stuff like that, but you're going to stack armor anyway, and you might stack other shields. I don't think it's not going to make that much difference. The way that battle was just hugely one-sided. It's more to do, I think, with the ancient driller drones. They are just pulverizing the enemy because our missile meta is mostly armor. That's what the missile meta has been. Yeah, so it's mostly armor. So the only way to counter the ancient driller drones is really to stack shields. You want to stack the shields up and try and because it's minus 50% damage against shields. But then they can counter with kinetic weapons, or you can have another fleet with kinetic weapons and such, you know, tic-tac-toe sort of stuff. But this fleet, that was just absolutely awesome. I don't think I've seen such a one-sided fight in any video I've ever done. That was just nuts. So, granted, this could be a little bit overkill with having all of these techs, but I don't think you can get most of this tech pretty early. The only thing the missile meta has the advantage on is you can get the missiles and the missile design up earlier. So if you're in a pure PvP match, you can get this design up by year 30. No problems at all. Year 30, 35 at most. Maybe not all of these. You probably can't get all of these. You probably have most of these by about year 40 if you beeline for it 45. So you could argue that you could take out a couple of these techs to balance it out a little bit. But for the purpose of the video, just showing that how the missile meta is so dominant, there are counters to it now and showing off the new archaeotechs from First Contact in the 3.7 update and just how powerful. And remember, apparently the shield penetration is not working. So add another 30% shield penetration. It's like this fleet's invulnerable to mid-game missile cruisers. Alright, so seeing that the missile meta is wasted by this type of ship design, let's see how it compares against some other of our strong ship designs like artillery and torpedoes. Let's give that a whirl. So for this fight, we've got our cruiser torpedoes. We're going with armoured torpedoes, level 2 disruptors. We're going to try and close in to close range with our afterburners and try and tear up this carrier fleet. Just all mid-level technology, torpedo computers, so nothing out of order. We've seen this design be pretty effective in some battles, so we'll see how effective it is against carriers. They may take a lot of damage while they close into range, but they should be faster. What's our speed? 218 versus 180. So yeah, they do have a speed bonus. So let's see how it pans out.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet.
It's the same type of fleet as well, by the way. There's no changes to our fleet. Still got a bit of a firepower buff because of the ascension perk. Closing range. They're in range now. You can see they're firing off their disruptors. No, they're just getting wasted. Look at this. This is crazy. Absolutely slaughtered again. Oh, that's a retreated fleet. So they lost 10 ships then. Once again, not even scratched, even better. So, alright, don't use torpedoes against that design and disruptors. That was just crazy. Another waste. Alright, I'm going to have to ramp this up. Let's go with the cruisers' arch enemies, their rivals, kinetic artillery. Even though kinetic artillery can be hard to get early, you can beeline for it and get it at least the first level. So let's try some kinetic artillery ships, which are normally the tic-tac-toe for carriers. They normally waste carriers easily. We've seen that in many of my battles. You watch it, I think the last battle we saw, carriers were quite artillery was quite effective at killing the carriers. Just my battle a video from 3-4 days ago, and plus previous battles on strike craft, artillery is the counter. So let's see if artillery can counter this fleet design. Okay, so this fight we've got artillery, kinetic artillery, level 3 lasers, standard stuff here, level 1 afterburners, artillery, advanced artillery, combat computers, and standard tech there, nothing fancy. Same ship design on the other side, our unchanged carrier build. So you'd think this one would favour kinetic a little bit, or at least should be a little bit more even, because we've got a lot of shield hardening here. That's not going to help us with kinetic. We do have more. We do have some shields there, so kinetic is going to be effective in that. It's just going to be getting through the armour, which their lasers should help with. Just depends, they can do enough damage before our strike craft or our ancient driller drones can get them, knock them off basically. Because these guys have a fair bit of armor. You could stack more shields if you wanted to. Yeah, nearly 3,000 armor, not much shields. Let's see how this pans out. Artillery is normally very good, but you're going to see there's still the firepower advantage here due to the ascension perk. If we didn't have the ascension perk, we would be about 15-16k versus their 17, and they would win.
Heretic fleet engaged.
Okay, not losing as many ships straight away, although a bunch have retreated. Okay, now they're losing ships. You can see there we are taking more damage than we have in the other fights. Okay, now we actually lost a ship. But yeah, they've lost a lot of firepower. Yeah. They're still going down. They're not losing as many ships. Just pauses before the battle goes down. They've only lost 4 ships. Driller drones are still getting through, but kinetic batteries are actually getting through to the hull there, so that is better. UV lasers doing a little bit. Yeah, very efficient on the shields, obviously. So you can see there we are getting through and we're doing a bit of damage to the hull there. But you can see the firepower, the battle, that's nearly over. Lost 5 ships, 6, 7. They retreated. So they lost, looked like they lost 7, perhaps 8 ships. Let's have a little look. 8. Well, they lost 1 in FTL, so we'll say we killed 7. And we lost 2. So there you go. This carrier fleet completely turns around what was previously the tic-tac-toe counter for carriers, artillery battleships. So as far as I can see now, there is no counter to the carrier, this carrier design, because artillery was one of the few things that could beat it. There might be some other designs. You'd probably have to use some of these weapons, some of the architect weapons, against it to be able to beat it, to get that same buff, because we're getting like 33% weapons buff, we're getting armor buffs, we're getting shield buffs, so we're at a nice advantage. They just simply cannot beat us. So this is just crazy. Let's look at the ship design. You've got your artillery cruiser there. Yeah, what could be used? What could we put in there? So to get that weapon bonus, so that's armor and shield. So that might be alright because there's not much shields in those ships. So add a 33% bonus to that. 0 to 80 range. That could be effective. So there's armor penetration and armor damage. So you could maybe opt for something like that. If you're running more shields, you could also opt for that. And that's also got an extra 20 range. So that could be effective. What's that? 14.6. So kinetic does a lot more damage. It's got more fire rate. Artillery accuracy better. That's not as accurate. So you could try out some of these macro batteries, but I'm going to use that for another game. I don't think it's going to be able to counter the carrier meta at this stage. All right, so we've done a few medium game tests now. I will do a few more late game tests to see if any of the higher tier weapons, when perhaps it's a bit more even, makes the battle a bit more even. So I'll test out a few battles in that. Okay, so this fight we've got our higher end artillery and weapons, higher end weapon tech here, level 2 afterburners, pretty much the best we can get without going into Fallen Empire stuff and Dark Matter stuff. versus our first, the ship we had in our first battle, which won that convincingly. So same weapons, it's just a bit higher level of tech for all our other support. So not too many changes there. It's all similar. Now the other thing I want to just talk about is point defenses. Now the point defenses and flak are not going to be too effective with this level of firepower. This fleet is just wiping the enemy too quickly. The only way you could probably counter this carrier fleet, I think, is if you had a fleet like this. If you made half of that fleet have flak, you're reducing your firepower a lot, and you're just not going to be able to kill this fleet enough. That gives more time for the strike craft, even though you're killing a bunch of them, to still whittle you down. You'd need a second fleet of escorts having PD to beat this fleet. You could try and use cloak and close in, but we've seen the carriers, they just spread out and still overwhelm you. Although this carrier fleet doesn't have afterburners, so it could potentially be an option. But let's try this against artillery. This artillery fleet would normally decimate carrier fleets. Every battle I've ever done, artillery has always decimated carriers. Let's see how this one pans out.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
See the artillery there chiming in, smashing those shields. Looks more even. You can see the fleet power is a lot more even. Oh, we've lost a ship there. Oh, we've lost a couple. They've lost one. Oh, we could have a counter. Lost two. Oh, we're losing a bunch of ships. Does look like artillery's going to win this. Yep. 16, 8. Yep. So they won that. That was a convincing win for artillery. Phew. So we do have some type of comeback against the carrier. I was worried there for a while. We weren't going to have anything. So the higher level tech makes it a little bit more even. Even though the firepower was still at a negative, it was just able to overwhelm the enemy with that just sheer firepower. And probably because they stacked a bit more shields too. I put a couple more shields in there, so that probably helped. So let's just have a look at the ship design. How could you better max this carrier fleet for to deal with late game artillery? So with shields, enough shields, we've got armor, so you've got a spare bit of armor there. The only thing I would probably do is, because we're losing a couple of slots of firepower there, we've only got that, so I've only got that. I wonder if putting in, there's more damage to armor, less damage to shields. It gives 100 range. Get through the shields. Armor penetration. So there's less damage to armor. So these shield hardeners are not effective in this fight. Let's try putting in even one of these two. We've got plenty of armor. Let's try putting in a bit of shields. Something gives a bit of shields. Let's just change it up. And let's change this, because this is effectively useless for us. So we either want to put in probably shield capacitors. That's some 10%. That gives 130 shields. Against artillery, we could probably instead, afterburners is no good because we're both going to be firing at range. We could stack some more regenerative hull tissue. Give us more regen. Because the armor, they'll be going for the shield, so getting a lot more armor regen may be effective. Let's just test it. Let's just see how it goes. Yeah, let's test that out. Just want to see if you can counter the artillery. Although they did win by a fair bit. Okay, so for this fight we've got our carriers again, but we put in the large ancient macro batteries to give us a bit more damage to shields. If someone's coming at you with a bit more shields in it. We've also just stacked our regenerative hull tissue just to see how this goes against an artillery fleet, because artillery does a lot of damage to shields, not so much against armor. So boosting up our armor regen could be an effective deterrent. I don't know, maybe. And plus, you could also opt to change out these shields too, because this isn't really that effective against artillery. You could go with a normal type of shields, because the 15% hardening is not effective. So if someone's coming at your artillery, you can quickly reconfigure your carriers to counter that threat. But we'll just run with this design for the moment. We'll just see how this goes. Our battleships is the same design as it was before. No real changes. So let's see how it pans out. There's still got a large firepower advantage.
Is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
Strike craft away. Kinetic firing. We just lost a couple battleships still. A couple cruisers. They've lost a couple, so a little bit more even. Into our hull. See if the regen helps there. A bit of armor. Ooh, we're still getting hammered. Oh, it's still pretty even. The longer the battle goes, the better advantage the strike craft get. Normally, anyway. Oof. Oh, this is coming down to the wire. Let's just have a look at the damage here. Kinetic artillery, ancient driller drones, and a nano missile. So that's sort of, yeah, about even. The kinetic artillery damage shield's crazy. You see that armor's at full. Oh, look at this. Yeah, just where strike craft get the advantage in the end, because they can just focus fire better. Oh, it's so close still. Oh, there you go. The missile meta just won. So we lost 8 ships in total. Not the missile meta, the carrier meta, I should say. Just one. How many we lost? We lost 10 there. So we lost 8, they lost 10. That was very close. Now, if we change this with shields, normal shields, I imagine it would be a little bit better if we went standard shields and give us a bit more of a buff. It'd change it a little bit. I don't think it'd make a massive difference, but it gives a little bit more. So there we go. We were outgunned by 4K. We still managed to hold the day, just barely, with this setup over artillery. So there you go. You can counter the artillery meta against the carriers, which is really effective. So it just shows you how good these new technologies are. And I'm only scratching the surface of doing testing at the moment. We're not even close to uncovering all the benefits. So there's going to be people come up with a lot better designs than what I am. But this is just to show everyone that you don't have to run to the missile meta anymore. These new technologies open up a whole other window of opportunities, and maybe some of these kinetic and laser weapons are better, and maybe different combinations of defenses, and who knows, and the missiles. I've got some really good other designs I want to try out for corvettes and destroyers, but that can be for another video. So I think it'll be very interesting. It might shake things up even more, which would be really good. The only thing I found wanting in this the tech for the Archeo engineers is, where's the new torpedo tech? They didn't put one in, did they? They haven't seen any new torpedo techs yet. So guys, with this ship design, this cruiser, and I haven't even touched battleships yet, but I've done testing in battleships. It's very similar, just on a larger scale. And I'll probably do more on that in another video, test out carriers even further with the battleships, because with the battleships you can do hang on, the super carrier, where is it? Yeah, you can do design like this. You can use the ancient saturator artillery, right? Does 2,600 damage, 150% damage to shields. Now, add in the bonus from this to that 2600 plus 33%, and then you're also stacking you know, you can stack your ancient armor and ancient suspension fields in here, because you do have more power to play with on the battleships. You can get more of these in here, or at least some of them in here, to boost that up as well and boost those stats with the ascension perk. So I've got the missiles in there. You've got more strike craft. You can even try and make it a third hangar bay if you wanted to, but I thought this was a really good combination against most designs. So because you got the plus armor damage here and hull damage, but then if someone's coming with lots of shields, you've got the big kinetic gun on the front that does huge damage to shields and damage to hull at an enormous rate of firepower. So that is really, really effective. So, but I'll leave that for another video to test out the battleships, but you can see where I'm going with these designs. Alright, so let me know what you think of this type of designs. That seems to be now a new type of meta you can use from about that mid-game onwards. Missile meta still effective very early, but once you get to the mid-game now, they're no longer up to the late game. Missile meta's done at mid-game if you're running these type of designs. They will get slaughtered. And it's pretty easy to get these techs by the mid-game. So there you go, guys. It's no longer the missile meta anymore. You've got a missile meta you can use early, but now you've got carrier meta for cruisers, and it will also continue on to battleships, but I'll show more of that in another video. So send me some comments, hit that like button for me, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.